Hello and welcome to the Queen Bee podcast by Queen Bee Rising. I am the host, Tanya Rutherford. Now, I'd love to invite you to enjoy all of our episodes. We're currently in season 3 and it's been an amazing journey. Each fortnight, I interview an amazing woman and we talk about menopause, we talk about midlife, and we also talk about personal transformations. Along the way, we explore some of the things that are holding us back, and there's always something uplifting, inspiring, and often a wow, I had no idea moment mixed in with all that as well. Stay tuned and enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Queen Bee podcast. Today we're joined by Tatiana Genys, who is a medicine woman, sound healer, and founder of the Art and Science of Choosing You. So after a successful corporate career and a life-changing divorce, Tatjana began a global journey of healing from monasteries in Bhutan to the jungles of Peru, exploring what it really means to live, lead, and love consciously. Through her work, she now helps others to integrate ancient wisdom with modern science to reconnect with their wholeness, not to perfection. Tatjana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me and for this epic introduction.
No pressure. So your story is one of transformation through deep self-awareness. What does choosing you really mean to you right now in this chapter of your life?
I absolutely love that question. And my answer will probably vary from what most people will want to hear in this moment, because transformation sounds really glorious. But the inner work is actually really hard. And choosing yourself oftentimes comes through some really big battles. I wrote a book called From People Pleasing to, or From People Pleaser to Boundary Badass. And there was a journey where I had to learn to stand up for myself. Leaving the corporate world, that was a dream come true, because I really wanted to step into poetry and art and fulfillment, looking beyond the bottom line and really focusing on purpose. But you are a solopreneur, you know what it takes to run a business. There's so many layers that come to it. So to summarize, what choosing you means for me in this moment in life is actually choosing a life of authenticity and choosing to show up in truth. So highlighting absolutely how epic a life of purpose can be, but also the sacrifice and hard work it oftentimes requires. So it's balancing the status quo in that moment, choosing what it is you actually truly need and what will help you most as you're progressing to the next chapter of life. So that will vary depending on your cycle, your age, your family requirements, your relationships with your siblings, and so on. I don't think it's a black and white answer. Choosing you is something you do every single day, the moment you wake up, and how you're choosing to do life and respond to what's coming towards you.
I think that's the really key thing, isn't it? Is it's not this huge big thing that we've got to approach, like we've got to schedule things and we've got to, wait until we're ready. It's actually something that we do every day. Like we either are choosing us or we're not choosing us constantly throughout the day. So it's those small little steps that start making the difference.
Absolutely. I actually think it's the most loving thing you can do to yourself. And as you're navigating whatever comes up, all the beautiful emotions as you're transitioning through shame or hot flushes or absolute joy and fulfillment and purpose, actually just holding yourself within that and being your biggest ally amongst it.
Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? It's actually about choosing to support yourself, not bring yourself down. regardless of whatever else is going on around you.
Take it from an ex-people pleaser.
And I love the sound of that book, by the way. I think it sounds awesome.
Everybody needs a little bit of a badass inside them.
Yes, definitely. And it really fits with a challenge that we're doing this month as well. So it sounds like so much fun. Now, you've described your work as bridging the art and science of conscious living. How do you, I mean, one, what does that mean? But how do you see these two elements supporting one another in that healing process?
Beautiful question. I could probably write another book about that topic because I also think there's so many layers to each. Now, my past was, for those of you who are less familiar with my work, I spent 15 years in the corporate world. I grew up in the corporate world, but my heart and soul is actually everything creative. So what I had to learn was, whilst I was in the corporate world, I really missed that creative outlet. And that was what led me to write 4 books, with two still coming that I will get to eventually. But when I jumped boat and started my own business and focused on all the stuff I loved, I also missed the part where I got mentally challenged. So I studied heaps of modalities because I got a little bit hooked on human psychology and somatic and mental techniques. And I understood that they actually walk hand in hand. So my creativity really started blossoming the more healing work I started to do. I never used to write poetry, and at one point it just switched on. All the characters that developed inside me when I wrote the fictional book, I think they were all buried underneath a lot of trauma and stuff that I first had to work through. And simultaneously, when you spend too much time on that side, I think you're also missing out on so much wisdom that comes from the Western world. So now, having traveled to places and sat in a monastery and sat in the jungle and at the same time witnessed Western medicine, I think it gives me a really holistic, broad view to actually see how beneficial they are when they're in tandem, and when to use what for a bigger outcome and purpose, because sometimes a release is epic and exactly what you need, and sometimes you actually need to put a lid on it because your lifestyle doesn't allow a big explosion or release of emotions at the moment. So it's learning how to navigate the two, and it being both ancient practices as well as modern practices that I think can give you the biggest buck for the result, or the biggest outcome you could eventually hope for.
What was probably the most poignant moment or the turning point that, like, did you have a big aha when you were going through this of like, oh my gosh, this is where I've been going wrong, or this is what I could be doing, or this is how I want to live my life, or anything?
Yeah, totally. Look, so many moments. I think in the corporate role, I knew for about 7 years before I jumped that it was time for me to leave, but there was always still something holding me back. What I later understood is all the studies I did in the lead up. So I studied coaching, I was running groups, I did some trauma work. They all set me up for that next stepping stone, and why I'm now so passionate about actually hard work mapped with dedication, supporting your purpose, because it's great to dream and dream big, and so many people sell you that dream of total independence. I actually think it's the moments that are the hard moments that lead you there. So when I then went on the journey of becoming a senior director in the corporate world and board of directors for a charity firm, I pushed myself too hard with all the travel and jet lag and running a family and trying to navigate all worlds whilst being totally disconnected. And that one sent me on that journey to explore the jungle and the monastery, but then also create my signature program, which is all about burnout prevention, executive summary style. So now looking at the world that gets busier and busier and faster, I also had to look at where I am in my life now. And now that I don't have a week, 2 weeks to sit in a monastery or to do the deep healing work that luckily back then I could, one, afford, and two, make time for, how can I compress and condense everything I learned that it literally becomes a 1 minute meditation or a one song dance therapy or a quick breathwork exercise that you can easily plug and play in the car and calm down, cool down before you go and meet your family or step into that meeting with your boss or whatever else is important for you. And then as my own journey progressed, there were so many healing moments that came up that I guess I was unconscious for. So blocked trauma and that navigated a lot of my future direction where I now love working with women who have been through a bit bigger trauma or more on the deeper healing side and requirement. So every step has been a stepping stone, and I think it's also just the beginning of my journey if I look back in hindsight.
And we're all much wiser in hindsight, aren't we? It's amazing how that
Totally.
perspective really steps us into a different place. And now you sort of touched on
100%.
this. So many of us reach midlife carrying emotional or energetic residue from our earlier lives and earlier life stages. What are some of the first steps you guide people through when they're ready to begin that deeper healing journey?
Yeah, love that question. It's so interesting. Somebody actually said to me once that whatever we don't process in our younger years, that's what I guess comes up for us when we go through menopause. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's true, but if that's the case, I guess that's one more reason or invitation to start the healing journey sooner. I guess it really depends on personal circumstances because one healing journey won't be the same. I do a lot of inner child healing, but inner child healing is different when you have hot flushes and you need to release, and that might be suppressed anger or a different emotion we need to look at, potentially rage. And that's very different to when you feel energetically drained, and a sound bath will serve you much more comparatively. So I guess the way I love to look at it is every human has their own human design, almost like a fingerprint. And in the work that I consolidate, I've got some structured programs that have worked for me, and that's more specific to, I guess, burnout prevention and the overall healing journey. But if it's something that you're navigating and you're really struggling with, rather than having something that was designed based on my healing journey, which I hope will help as many people as possible. In those cases, whether that's me or somebody else, I think it's probably better working one on one to actually see what's underlying, what's at core, how often is that flaring up for you? Are there any patterns you notice, and what are you making it mean? So really digging into, I guess, the story behind the experience, and then working with that beautiful pool of emotions as it comes up.
I love that. And it's really like I've just started getting a bit more understanding. I'm still very, very junior on the human design element, but I love how you bring all the different elements in, like the sound healing and the child work and, all the different perspectives. Because often well, at least in the past when I've seen these things, they've always been in isolation. And I think where the most effective outcomes come is when we start bringing these modalities together and we start saying, okay, well, how do we create like a recipe that is going to be someone's, personal well-being healing journey, and how do we bring all the different things that they need, not just I do this and this is what you get. It's like, okay, we've got, you need a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I just love how, that's an approach that you've taken.
Absolutely, and it's thank you for mirroring that back at me actually, because people who know me and who have a journey with me, they'll be very used to us doing forgiveness work or working on boundaries, and I will stop them and say, sorry, but your throat just went. Let me just get my bowl. I think there's some stuff that we need to release, or I'll take my Native American drum and start drumming in the background because there's a body shift that I'm observing, and vice versa. Like when people come to a sound journey, we normally have a conversation before and after, and I cherish those sessions because you asked about what did I see in hindsight. I actually saw how much they are correlated. I first for the 9 years focused just on the mind, and I think what the second practice is brought to me over that period of time was actually how much wisdom there is in the body. And then once you get hooked, you mentioned human design or NLP or family constellations and gene keys. And the more you start digging deeper, I'm starting to study counseling in December. The more you realize how much you don't know and how all of these practices, if you just take bits of it, actually create for that human, their human design. So I love mixing and matching everything I learned, because I also feel like there was such a big part of my own healing journey that I just can't wait to pass along.
And coming back to your healing journey, the time learning from monks and shamans across the world has obviously shaped your perspective, and I love that. What are some of the lessons that have stayed with you most strongly?
Yeah, gosh, so many of them. I will probably start with the monks, even though that journey became after my stay in the jungle, and I almost feel like one set me up for the other. But what I learned from the monks, or actually from the head monk, surprisingly, and from every person that I got to meet along the way, was what conscious leadership looks like. So one of my talks when I'm speaking is actually around what the monks of Bhutan taught me about leadership. And that person embodied a combination of ancient wisdom as well as the ability to apply it in the modern world. So I think there I saw it for the first time with how he could be as present with what is happening on the ground and what he needed in that monastery for the young monks, that is really a school for children that where the parents can't afford for them to stay in their own villages. How he was able to map that against where he sees the world going in a country that is so far detached from everything we know. So no billboards, no newspapers, no magazines. Phones are now growing in, I guess, in popularity, but it's a world that was for such a long time so hidden from everything else, and yet he's so present and so switched on in where the world is going on the one end, while staying with his ancient practices. And what I learned from the shaman or shamans I got to meet along the way was actually their perspective of truth and their openness to incorporate otherworldly beliefs and religions into their techniques, and what healing in ancient terms can actually look like, how they operate healing on an energetic, physical level. I had one of my ribs that was dislocated, allocated back into my body based on what he saw and observed in a really quick way. So I think it opened my eyes to what's possible with natural medicines and all they know. And at the same time, also, I was really impressed with their openness to a very different world, which we don't always relay the same way from our side. So I think both experiences shaped me in a really massive way. They both guided me, navigated to a deeper healing journey to connect with myself and to others, and maybe be a little bit more open minded than I thought I already was, just by that sheer example.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. So, switching gears a little bit, for women who are navigating their own transition, whether that's through relationships, careers, identity shifts, what are some practices or mindsets that have helped you stay anchored in self trust that perhaps you could share?
Yeah, beautiful question. Oof. So for anybody experiencing first and foremost, hang in there. This is a chapter of your journey. It isn't the whole story. So with whatever you're navigating, the storms, the battles, the fights, and the moments where you feel unworthy or maybe fearful of what the future will hold, those will actually bring out your best self. Self-trust is earned. I wish I had the magic recipe to say, and there's a way that you can breathe into self-trust. It comes with experimenting things and failing at things and something working out. It's followed by surrounding yourself with beautiful people who will support you. So build community around you, join different networking groups, get help from people who've been through something similar. They become your backbone, your foundation, and so many people I'm now so utterly grateful for. and then find some techniques that regulate your nervous system. So if you're more on the anxious side, there are lots of grounding techniques, tapping, how you can really center yourself in your body, breath work, etc. If it's depression or procrastination, completely different tools. So again, depending on what it is, be mindful, be compassionate with yourself. Big self-love routine is something I highly recommend, and that's anything from a bubble bath to a sound bath to eating too much chocolate in your jammies, because that's exactly what you need in that moment. We've all been there, no judgment, and just know it will pass. Once that period is over, there is always a silver lining, whether that's something you'll end up teaching, preaching, making the most of it, or whether that's going to surprise the strengths you have, the power that is inside you. Who knows? It might become a canvas, a book, a journey that you never anticipated.
And it's really interesting just listening to you there. I was just thinking how often we wait until we're at that breaking point before we start taking action. And what I'm feeling is that if all of us, regardless of where we are now, just say, it doesn't matter if I think I'm okay or I'm not thinking I'm okay, is that I actually start doing small steps right now that are actually going to start moving me in a better position anyway, a better state of mind, a better state of body, well-being, and not waiting until the perfect moment, which is never going to happen, and that's usually after we've broken and we need some serious help.
Absolutely. And you asked for some practical advice, so maybe this will help. Every morning, I take 15 minutes to myself and I just allow myself to land in this body. And that's literally just actually observing. So I dream a lot. Apparently, some people don't. I go through what my dreams showed me and I actually just hold whatever emotion is in front of me. But I don't judge it. So it's not, I feel sad, I feel angry. It's literally just holding it, allowing it to pass. So you almost give it center stage and then it releases. And once I've done that, I call that my own little self-love technique. I know that I've got the rest of the day covered. So whether I need to look after my boy, or I've got an epic podcast I need to prepare for, or it's a really busy day, in the diary, it just helps then process everything else I need for the day and anchor myself in my body. And especially on days when I didn't wake up jumping out of bed full of joy, the question, what do I need today, becomes so important. And that's all that choosing you really is.
That's beautiful. I love that. And talking about choosing us and starting to look after ourselves, perimenopause. What's been your experience so far?
Look, very little. I've observed it with colleagues, and I've got some thoughts on that, especially when it comes into the corporate world. I just witnessed one of my best friends move into early menopause, and I've spoken to a couple of women who experience it. So, secondhand, I can share a lot. I guess for anybody listening who is in my position or my age or not quite there yet, I think the more important question for me becomes is how can we support women who are going through it? And I will always remember one beautiful businesswoman, very strong, empowered businesswoman in the corporate work, supporting a lot of the other women in the organization, then going quite visibly through hot flashes in team meetings. And I wish I would have known more at that time, because I could have easily gotten up and opened the door for her while she was presenting, or just being more mindful if this is something you're experiencing. Like I went to an event a couple of weeks ago and I was chatting to somebody who just suddenly started having hot flushes. Knowing what I know, you can then just say, let's just go and cool off at the bar, and shall we just transition into a different place? It doesn't have to be awkward. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. I think as women, we play such a big role in supporting each other through all stages in life, but especially publicly, if we see somebody else is struggling, to see how we can play a role and support other human beings the way we hope to be supported.
And I think the other thing, just with that, is, knowing that our emotions can be quite erratic during that stage. So not just the visible ones, but even just thinking about, okay, if someone's getting upset and it's out of character, then let's just be a little bit more sensitive and as you say, more trauma informed and aware that this isn't about who they are. This is about something that's coming up for them, whether it's hormonal, whether it's something else, and just being a bit more empathetic towards that and less judgmental as well.
Absolutely. So I actually love emotions. I invite emotions into my space whenever I can, be that on the yoga mat and when we're doing a sound bath or in a one-on-one. I think there's so much truth in your emotions, and so often we're taught to hide them. But if you compare it to a child that will scream when they're angry and that will tell you when they're upset, there's so much happening within us. And if you're surrounded by the right people, why I believe community is so important, and you can just say, look, this is coming up for me. I don't quite know what to do with it, but I just wanted you to know. So nothing personal, but this is where I'm at right this moment. And here's what would really help me throughout the next, I don't know, half an hour, the day we are working together. It would actually resolve half of the issues. There's so much power and strength in Brene Brown talked about vulnerability, but especially in the emotions that often bring us shame and make us feel uncomfortable and where we feel like we have to hide. That's when it actually gets worse. So if you're not in that space, also just thinking about what's some practical advice you can take on, like almost like the 15-minute session I do in the morning. I actually allow those emotions to come up and I just ask them quietly internally. Like, this is obviously coming up for me. What is it trying to tell me? What does it mean? Like, why am I responding in that way? And I hold my own inner child visually in that moment. And then I take a couple of deep breaths. If I can, I'll jot it down on my phone in my notes just so it's out of my system. If I need to, if I can, I'll shake it off. And if I can't, it's a case of I see you, I know it's there. I have to park it right this moment because I've got a meeting I need to attend to. I will circle back to it tonight and then we will deal with it. So having your own back, but also don't be shy to ask and take others on that journey.
That sounds great. Now, let's open it up to you. What's your current focus or the passion in your work at the moment?
Oh my God, so many. How much time do we have? Look, it's such an interesting journey because as much as it was so much hard work until now, and I don't want to take it away from anybody who's embarking on that journey, I feel like now the stepping stone 3 years in are finally coming together, where my signature program is in place, and that took 3 years of building blogs after I started speaking and writing and holding space and learning to position myself in the right places in the city. There was a big focus that went on marketing and systems and learning about different tools and how do I promote myself in the right way and pricing. So now that this is in place, I feel like it's almost the next big building block to then go, what do I want for my next 10, 15 years and beyond, which for somebody who was as ambitious as I was in the past, feels like such an incredible adjustment to then go, no, now I'm building something that's of purpose, of fulfillment. And the bottom line is very different because I know every time I have one of those sessions, I just can't wait to do more. So the next step for me is to complete my counseling degree so I can publish the book that I've been wanting to publish for a really long time. But I will need that credibility for it to have the weight that I really want it to have and to land in the way that it must. I want to enhance my skills and deepen my practices and slowly but steadily pave the path for others to follow and to see that this entrepreneur world isn't as big and scary if you apply the right art and the tools and hopefully build in a little bit of creativity of something that lights you up and find something that you're incredibly passionate about whilst healing your stuff because life just gets so much better when you do. That's really my sole purpose, main goal, vision for the next couple of years, and then the rest will hopefully follow, as well as
Oh, I
have an
love that.
epic time with my nearly 16-year-old, as long as he'll have me.
Making the most of it. And
Totally.
finally, if you could leave our listeners with one practical tip or piece of wisdom to help them just start choosing themselves today, what would that be?
I don't know if it fully answers the question, but I guess I will go with the first thing that dropped into mind, and that is to never lose hope. I know in moments when you're struggling with something or it feels really hard or you're wondering whether what you're doing right this moment will eventually ever pay off. It always does, not always in the way you expect it. And that's why I guess choosing you becomes so imminent. But if you're in that hard period, know it will end. If you're already in a part where I've done the hard bits and I'm growing, don't forget to celebrate yourself, celebrate people around you, celebrate the whole world if you can, and just spread that joy. And if you see somebody struggling, please send them my way or find them somebody who can relate to them, they can relate to, where they feel really seen and heard and understood and welcomed. So choose a healed shaman, worker, coach, whatever the term is you want to choose, and never stop choosing you. So that's probably more than one. I've never been good at math, but I hope that helps.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your journey and your insight with us today. So, today we explored what it means to live with intention, to reconnect with your wholeness, and to honour that sacred balance between science and spirit in our own healing journeys. For those of you who might want to dive deeper, you can connect with Tatjana and explore her offerings from sound healing to conscious living programs. It's all at tatjanagenys.com, and we will make sure we have that in the details. Thank you for joining us on the Queen Bee podcast, where we continue to share real conversations that inspire women to rise, reconnect, and redefine what is possible in midlife and beyond. Until next time, keep listening inward, honouring your becoming, and remember that choosing yourself is where true transformation actually begins. Thank you for joining us for the Queen Bee podcast. Now, if you're keen to have more, and why wouldn't you be, definitely check out all our other episodes. I think there's a real win in every single one of them. Now, if you would like some more support, then we have that as well. In our Queen Bee Rising library, we have a lot of resources designed to inform and support you in your peri and menopause journey. We also have some amazing programs that are all about helping you to shift from blah to woohoo or something along that spectrum. Check out the website, and if you've got any questions, then definitely shoot me an email at connect@queenbeerising.com.au, and I look forward to hearing from you.